Hello, everyone. Welcome to Trading Tech Talk. It is May 26th. My name is Daniel Senig, and I will be your host today. Today's topic will be how to build your own strategies with the NinjaTrader Strategy Builder as part one of today's Tech Talk. And in part two, we are going to put our indicators to action once again to build our swing trading portfolio. Before we get started, let me quickly go through the disclaimer. As you know, trading is risky. Only invest and trade what you may afford to lose. When it comes to hypothetical performance or back test results, keep in mind that these are not necessarily indicative of future performance. So, I am the host, Daniel Senig, and I will give the introduction today, but I am also joined by our team. We have Rainer Michaelis, who will talk about the swing trading portfolio as part two of today's Tech Talk. We also have Homer on board. She will be manning the chat. And of course, Nicola will also be here today. He will be giving us a demo on how to use the NinjaTrader Strategy Builder to create your own strategies. Now, what is the agenda today? We're going to quickly review of what happened last week. Then we're going to look at what has changed and what is new at trading indicators. And then we're going to get right into the topic. We're going to start building our own strategies with the NinjaTrader Strategy Builder, which is then followed by putting our indicators to action, where Rainer will use them to create a swing trading portfolios. Last week, we have covered the strategy builder, another strategy builder, but for Motive Wave. And of course, last week, also Rainer went through his swing trading portfolio. He looked at a couple of trades which he considered, and he will do the same thing today. If you are wondering where the recordings of these webinars are, it is very simple. Simply go to our YouTube channel. You can find it on our homepage at tradingindicators.com. Simply go to the top right corner. There's a YouTube icon there, and click on it, and it will bring you straight to our YouTube channel. Okay, so what is new? What has happened with tradingindicators.com since last week? We have released the latest version, the next version of the Crypto Crusher dashboard. The Crypto Crusher dashboard is a joint project which we have started with BK Forex. Many of you may know BK Forex. It is Boris Schlossberg and Kathy Lian. And together with these two traders, we have created a Crypto Crusher trading dashboards, which is now on version 2.0, featuring multiple watch lists, trade alerts, and performance reports. And if you're wondering what this dashboard is all about, you can check it out at www.bkcryptocrusher.com. I'm also very excited about this new release. We are going to publish, probably tomorrow, SuperTrend Bulls Eye for TradingView. We will be releasing the first auto-optimizing indicator for TradingView. All right, so today's topic, number one, is how to build my own trading strategy using the NinjaTrader Strategy Builder. Much like the strategy builder for Motive Wave, also the NinjaTrader Strategy Builder allows you to click together without any programming knowledge, your own trading strategy. And then once you have your own strategy, you can do all kinds of things with it. For example, you can test it. You can run back tests. You can optimize it, but you can also run it for live trading. It is really a very powerful tool to test and realize your own ideas without being a programmer, without having this programming knowledge. And today, we are going to use the NT8 Strategy Builder to create automated strategies based on SuperTrend Bulls Eye and based on our 1, 2, 3 strike indicator. The Strategy Builder comes with NT8, so you do not have to install anything extra. It's already integrated into NinjaTrader 8. It allows you to create your own custom strategies with just a few mouse clicks. And not only can these strategies then be back tested and optimized, but you can also use them in live trading. And the strategy builder for NinjaTrader 8 is quite powerful. It will allow you to create market orders, limit orders, stop orders. You can create your own trading plans based on any indicator that is available in NinjaTrader.
Daniel, before you go any further, can you tell the audience a little bit about why they would want to use an indicator that's already built with Strategy Builder?
So your strategy is typically based on some indicators. This might be a simple RSI or a MACD or a moving average. And what the strategy builder allows you to do is to leverage the readings, the output of these indicators to create your own automated strategy. And once you have an automated strategy, you can run tests, which is where the real power of an automated strategy comes in. If you have an indicator, you cannot really test it. You see the readings, a curve or maybe some signals, but you don't really know how good they are. But once you have an automated strategy, you can actually run some back tests and optimizations to get some hard facts on how well your trading idea is performing. All right, so let's put our brains together and let's create some strategies together. So the first strategy that we think we're going to create is a strategy based on SuperTrend Bulls Eye. It is going to be quite a simple strategy, which will be based on the stop and reverse paradigm, which basically means we will initially enter at market into a position when a buy or sell signal occurs. And once we're in a long trade, let's say, and a sell signal occurs, we are going to reverse our long position to the short side. And once we are short and a long signal occurs, we again are going to reverse that short position to the long side. And this will alternate on and on until we decide to shut down our strategy. And strategy number 2 will be based on our 1, 2, 3 strike indicator, which will follow the buy and sell signals of 1 to 3 strike. And as you may know, 1 to 3 strike also comes with partial exit suggestions. And the strategy will take advantage of these partial exit suggestions to scale out of our position step by step until we are eventually flat. And as Nicola will show, we are going to use the backtester and optimizer to find a good set of parameters to get some decent results with the 1 to 3 strike strategy.
Okay, so the strategy builder for NinjaTrader, the NinjaTrader strategy builder, as Daniel mentioned, is a built-in tool that comes with even the free version of NinjaTrader, and it lets you build your own automated strategies based on various conditions, a lot like the strategy builder for MotiveWave that we demoed the other week. So here I've opened the strategy builder very simply from the control center in NinjaTrader right here, strategy builder. And you're presented with this strategy builder screen where you essentially walk through 8 steps to create the strategy you want. And the first step up here is the welcome screen, where you're able to say, as we will, that we want to create a new strategy, or you can select a strategy you previously created to edit it, or you can save a previous strategy as a new one. So essentially create a copy and edit and move on with that version. We're going to go with a new strategy. And after you've made this decision, the next screen is the general screen where you name your strategy and give a description for it. In our case, we're going to be building a strategy as we go along to demonstrate what the builder can do based on our SuperTrend Bulls Eye indicator. And I've got that indicator applied to a chart right here. When you build a strategy based on an indicator, of course, you want your automated strategy to trade the signals generated by this indicator or signals that you define based on the values that the indicator provides. For example, when the RSI is over 70, you want to take some profits on your long trade, etc. And with SuperTrend Bulls Eye, we only really need to pay attention to 2 signals that the indicator is generating to make a strategy based around it. And those 2 signals are our buy signal and our sell signal. And we can see up in the cursor data window at the top right up here that when I hover my mouse on the sell arrow, our sell value right here goes from non-applicable, no value, to the value of the entry price. So whenever we have a buy or a sell, we note that the value of that plot is basically non-zero. It's greater than 0. So we'll keep that in mind as we move along. So I'll call our strategy SuperTrend Bulls Eye strategy. That's the indicator we'll base it on, with no description, and move on to the next screen. So the next screen is called default properties. And really the most important property that you're going to set is whether or not you want the strategy to calculate on every bar, on every tick, or on every price change. That's up to you. In our case, it's very simple. We're going to calculate on bar close. But then you have a lot of other properties with regards to how the orders are placed, how your orders are placed by your strategy, and whether or not your strategy closes out its position at the end of the session, the amount of seconds you want to offset, other options for slippage, time enforced for your orders, and whether or not you want your stops and targets to be associated with every entry the strategy takes or the strategy position as a whole. And for our case, we need to make no real changes here. The only thing I'm going to uncheck is exit on session close, because I don't want the strategy to exit. I want it just to trade based on the buy and sell signals from SuperTrend Bulls Eye without regards for the session. And finally, I always like to put the maximum bars look back for my strategies to infinite. I think this is mostly a calculation optimization option, but it's always best, in my opinion, to put it to infinite in case your strategy is based upon some indicator which uses a lot of historical data. And next screen you have is called additional data. And here you're able to add series of data from other instruments and timeframes that you can then use in the logic of your strategy. For example, you could take a long trade, a long entry on Apple when Microsoft dips in the morning or something along these lines. In our case, that's not applicable, but it's good to know that the option's here. And the next screen when you're making a strategy is important. It's your inputs and variables. And for SuperTrend Bulls Eye, the indicator that we're going to base this strategy on, there are only two settings applicable when determining the entry and exit signals. And those are the multiplier and the ATR period. So when I create a strategy based on this indicator, I'm going to want to have these inputs in my strategy as well, so that I could pass them on to the indicator and edit the indicator that the strategy is based upon. So here we see we have multiplier and ATR period. These are the important ones in our case. There's also the trail stop percentage, but that's when we're using the percent trailing option, which we're just going to ignore for this simple example. So back to the strategy builder. Since we're building a strategy on this indicator, I'm going to create those two inputs. We had one called multiplier, which was a double value or a decimal number. And I'll set its default value to 3. And we can set a minimum value. I'll put 0. That's one input we want. And the other one was our ATR period. And that's an integer. And for the default, I'll say 7. And these are the only two inputs we're going to need for this strategy. And now the cool part of the strategy is the conditions. And the way this screen works is a lot like our motive wave strategy builder, where we define some conditions. If X happens, if Y happens, then do the following. So once these conditions, either if any of them or if all of them, evaluate to true, then the strategy will take the following actions. And we'll see this first simple example. So I'll open up a new condition. And there's a lot of different options. We can look at our current market's position, our current unrealized profit loss, various time conditions, etc. But what we want to do is reference our indicator, SuperTrend Bulls Eye. So I'll scroll down to SuperTrend Bulls Eye in the indicator folder. And in this little window, now I want to pass on my strategy's inputs to the indicator. So here for the multiplier parameter, I'm going to pass in the multiplier I defined in my strategy. And for the ATR period, I'm going to pass in my ATR period. And classic SuperTrend is the mode we want. And I'll disable automatically optimize parameters, as this option is basically not applicable when we're running a strategy in backtests or in optimizations or on the chart. And now that we've passed our parameters to this indicator, we can reference the plots that it generates. So as we saw in the chart before, I want to reference, for example, the buy plot. And when that value is a number, so when it's greater than miscellaneous a numerical value of 0, and we could see all these other, there's a huge amount of options in the NinjaTrader strategy builder. So when this buy plot from the indicator is greater than 0, then we want our strategy to enter a long position. Go to order management. And sorry if I went a little fast there, do the following. I'm going to add an action. So once that condition, the buy value is valid, I want the action to do something associated with order management, and I want it to enter a long position. And I'm going to let it enter by the default quantity, just for our example here. Let's say 1 share, perhaps. And this is the logic, all the logic we need to get our long trades to be taken. And now the handy thing we can do is right-click on this set of logic and click Duplicate in New tab. And I want this new logic to take a short trade when we have a sell signal. So I'll edit this condition I created previously. And all I need to change now is the value plot. Instead of looking for a buy value greater than 0, I just want to know if there's a sell value greater than 0. So if that's the case, we can expand this here to see sell greater than 0. Then I want to enter not long, but short. Enter short, the option right here by default quantity. Okay. And for this simple example, that's all the logic we need. This strategy will continue to reverse, entering long and entering short as the SuperTrend Bulls Eye signals roll in. And because this strategy is always in the market and it's always reversing from long to short, we don't have any stops or targets in this case. But the way the strategy builder works in NinjaTrader is you're able to add in these stops and targets, which can be dynamically set based on trailing stops, stop losses on your total position, different profit targets, and parabolic stops. And you're able to associate them with an entry signal. And you can name your entry signals. For example, if you named your buy trade by 1, then you can associate this target with only the position taken by that signal, etc. In this case, we're not using any stops and targets. And finally, once we hit the finish screen, we can click compile. And once it's compiled, this strategy is going to be accessible throughout NinjaTrader's other windows. Okay, I've heard it's compiled successfully. And now I can hop on over to my chart here. And I've got SuperTrend Bulls Eye applied to the chart. Now, what I want to do here with SuperTrend Bulls Eye, if you don't know, it's able to optimize its own parameters and find a configuration with a high profit factor. So I'm going to open up the settings for this indicator, and I'm going to click Automatically Optimize. And it's optimized and found these settings with a multiplier of 2.5 and a period of 10 gives a profit factor for this period for the look back of 1.45. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the strategies window by right-clicking on the chart and hitting strategies. And I should be able to find the strategy we just created, SuperTrend Bulls Eye strategy, right here. And now if I pass the parameters that I found were a good setup in the indicator, 2.5 and 10, to the multiplier and ATR period settings, and then I enable this chart, enable this strategy, you have to click enable, enabled, and then hit OK. We see we've now got a strategy applied to the chart, which is taking entries exactly in sync with the ones taken from the indicator. Here we go short, here we go long, short, long, short. And what we're able to do now, as we've essentially got an automated strategy trading this indicator, and if we were live and we had an account hooked up, as the bars rolled in, this strategy would use our account to trade the indicator based on the strategy we've defined. We can now right-click on the chart, go to Strategy Performance, and see how this strategy has performed. And so over this period, it's had a profit factor of 1.43, very similar to the one estimated by the optimization in the indicator, 1.45. And we're able to look at various other metrics, like an analysis of the P&L, the different executions and trades taken, etc. So I hope that was a good little introduction to how the strategy builder works. Daniel, are there any questions, or can I move forward with another interesting strategy and backtesting?
Actually, there is a question here from Juan. He wants to know how can we adjust the optimization automatically inside the strategy?
Unfortunately, in NinjaTrader, that's not possible because once a strategy is applied, the underlying indicator cannot automatically reconfigure itself and have the strategy update. So that's something we made possible in MotiveWave with the strategy builder we created, but with the NinjaTrader strategy builder, that's just not possible. Strategy will not work that way. It won't function correctly. So you cannot re-optimize SuperTrend Bulls Eye while a strategy is built around it and while that strategy is running. You'd have to disable your strategy, run an optimization with the indicator, and then adjust your strategy and re-enable it.
And one more question. Can SuperTrend Bulls Eye trade futures?
Yes, definitely. It can trade any instrument type, any asset class. There's nothing holding it back. It's not based on volume, so it doesn't matter if you're trading FX or some data where there's no volume. It has no problem trading futures. Okay, and we've had another common question of how we can build a strategy based on one of the Powerbundle indicators like 1, 2, 3 strike. And it's a little bit more complicated, so we're going to go ahead and build that in the strategy builder just to see how it can be done. So let me remove the strategy we've had for SuperTrend Bulls Eye. And I'm going to apply 1, 2, 3 strike to the chart here. Okay. And as you can see, the way 1, 2, 3 strike works, if you've never seen it before, is there are short and long entries, and then there are partial exits. So essentially the position gets scaled out. So for example, here we have a short entry, which gets scaled out with one partial exit here and one partial exit here. Here we have a long entry, which gets scaled out with a partial exit here and a partial exit here. And sometimes before you get a partial exit, you have an entry in the opposite direction, which essentially just reverses the entire position. So we need to be able to create a strategy that's able to scale out on these partial exit signals, but also be able to manage these reversal entries and all of the other situations that arise. And if you've never seen the 1, 2, 3 strike for NinjaTrader before, or the Powerbundle indicators, we have this handy widget on the charts, which makes it very easy to adjust your settings and also look at the efficiency of the signals. And we're going to use this as we build our strategy to make it a handy way to see which inputs we need for our strategy. So I'll go back to the strategy builder. Okay, and we're going to come up here to welcome. We're going to create a new strategy again. I'm going to call this 1, 2, 3 strike, and I have to call it 1 with letters because you cannot start a strategy name with a number. And in our default properties, we're going to keep everything the same as we did last time. We're not going to exit on session close. We're going to allow the strategy to have an infinite bars look back. And we're going to leave it, as I've already mentioned, at on bar close and with maximum 1 entry per direction. We need no additional data from any other time frames. We're just trading the indicator as it's given. And here is the tedious part where we have to add in, or the long part where we have to add in the indicator, the inputs that we want our strategy to have access to. Just to speed things up, I'm going to only allow the strategy to edit the volatility period, the volume period, the fast and slow MA periods, and the exit, whether we're exiting on high volume reversal option. Okay, and then what we're going to see afterwards is we're going to bring this strategy into the analyzer, and we're going to optimize our parameters to find which settings give us the highest profit factor, and then we're going to apply those to a chart. Okay, so for our inputs, first we're going to have volatility period, an integer. We're going to say the default, let's put to 7, and volume period, the default of 34. These are just the defaults of the indicator. Fast MA period, default 7, and slow MA period, default 21. And finally, we're going to have a Boolean value, exit on high volume reversal. And we'll say default value false. And here's the interesting part. So how can we create a strategy that essentially tests the what we were talking about before, where we're able to scale out our positions? So first of all, we need to have our initial entries. And it's the same idea as we had with SuperTrend Bulls Eye. We're going to create for our first set of logic, our long entry. And our condition is going to be that we have an indicator, 1, 2, 3 strike, with a plot value for its long entry plot greater than 0. So I select 1, 2, 3 strike here in the indicator folder. I scroll down, and now I need to set for the parameters of the indicator the inputs I created. So volatility period for volatility period, etc. Okay. And the value plot here for this condition is going to be long entry. So when there's a long entry with a value greater than MISC numeric value, long entry with a value greater than 0, then I want the strategy to go long. Order management. But here, yeah, I haven't added in options to the strategy for long partial exits or short partial exits. I should have done this, and I'll show you why. So here, I'm going to call them LPE, long partial exits, or for clarity, long partial exits, with a default value of 4. And these are essentially the amount of scaled exits that the strategy will take, depending if you're long or short. And the reason I've done this is because when I enter long, right when I get the signal, I want to enter for that amount of lots. So I want to enter long for long partial exit lots. For example, if I have long partial exit set to 4, when I go long, I want to go long for 4 shares so that at each upcoming partial exit, I can take off one of those 4 or a quarter each time. And if I went long 5 times for 5 units, every long partial exit, there would be 5 of them. I would take off 1. And if we get a reversal entry, we just reverse the entire position. So when we get a long entry, we're going to enter long for long partial exits. And we'll duplicate that set of logic for our short entry. Edit this condition. If we have a short entry greater than 0, we'll go short for short partial exits. Okay. And now we need to create our partial exit conditions. So when our indicator 1, 2, 3 strike, when it throws a signal for a long partial exit right here, when this is greater than 0, then, and when we're long, so we'll make a strategy condition when our current market position equals a market position of long. So when we get a long partial exit and we're currently long, then we're going to exit long for 1 unit. 1 unit. And similarly for our short trades, I'll duplicate this and get it done quickly. When we are short, and we get a short partial exit right here, then we'll exit short for 1 unit. Great. And again, we do not need any dynamic stops and targets. So we can skip right to finish our strategy. If we review the logic really quickly. Good stuff. When we're long, we get a long partial exit, exit 1, and our entries are fine. That's good. So we go to finish and we click compile, and right away our strategy should be ready. And what we're going to do now after this finishes compiling is we're going to open up what's called the strategy analyzer. And from the control center, we can head to new strategy analyzer. And this is basically the back tester and optimizer for strategies in NinjaTrader. So it opens up this window. And on the right here, we're able to set the settings for our back test or optimization. And we're able to select the strategy that we want to run it on. And the strategy we ran was called 1, 2, 3 strike strategy right here. And as we can see, we have the inputs for our strategy that we set, volatility period, volume, etc. And we're then able to set, and essentially what this will do is it'll run a test on historical data, which we define, and calculate the trades it would have taken and show us the performance in various kinds of reports. So we'll run it on, say, a simple basket right here, maybe the Dow 30 on the daily time frame. For the past year, let's say from 2021, January 1st. And if we run this strategy, it'll apply these settings to 1, 2, 3 strike and trade the indicator as if you had taken the longs and shorts and exits that it suggested. And this isn't going to be optimal, right? We're just putting in the same settings for every single symbol that we're testing on. And we're really applying a wide brushstroke here with the same parameters in every condition. So we can't really expect that we're going to have the best performance, but it'll run the test and show us how the strategy ran. So here we're already at 24 out of 30 tests. And this was also on the daily for 1 year. So I don't expect there to be too many trades taken per symbol. Okay. So we can see here for the combined average was 0.84 profit factor for that past year and not many trades taken. So generally, when you apply this broad stroke, you might get this type of result. And if we increase the look back, we might have a better experience, etc. But the best part of the strategy analyzer is the optimizer. When you open up an optimization test, you're able to test various configurations of the settings and not just one at a time. It'll essentially run various different tests and test all of the combinations you've inputted to find which one gave the best result relative to the metric you're looking for. And this metric is set down here. So we're optimizing and we're able to tell it, keep only the best 10 results, keep only the best 100 results, whatever. But we're then able to optimize on the metric that we want. And in our case, I'm going to say we want to get the highest profit factor, but we could also look for the max net profit, max average profit, the minimum drawdown, etc. There's a lot of options. So for our optimization here, we're going to test different values for each of the inputs to see which ones work best. The way this works is you put in the start value that you want to test, the final value you want to test, and then the increment between them. So this will test 7 plus 7. So it'll test 7, 14, and 21. And here let's say 30, 90, 30. And for the fast, let's test 7 through 21. And for the slow, we'll also do 30 through 90. Okay. And we'll leave the long and short partial exits as they are. And we can run this test now. And what should happen is we'll be able to find a lot better configurations for each of these symbols. So this will take a short amount of time, maybe 50 seconds. In the interim, are there any questions, Homa?
Which of the indicators, SuperTrend Bulls Eye or 1, 2, 3 strike, have better performance with this strategy?
I can't say. I have not tested, every possible setting. They both do very well when they have the right settings for the right charts, but I wouldn't say one or over the other personally, which one I can say performs best. I don't know what you're trading or what time frames. We ran this test to find the best settings, the optimized settings for all these different symbols here. And obviously, these are the best possible profit factors, so they're quite inflated. But you're then able to say, okay, on Microsoft, although we only had 29 trades in this 2-year period, we can now click on this symbol and hop down here into this window and see a summary of the trades taken. We had 15.69 profit factor on the long side, 31 on the short. And we can take an look at the analysis, which is a graph of how our equity progressed over the look back period. We can look at the chart and see how the strategy traded those symbols. If we had the indicator applied right here, we would see we had a long entry here with our 4 long partial exits. And, the idea is hopefully you can backtest and find a good set of settings, which will then, with any luck, continue into the future. So we can take these settings we found for Cisco or Microsoft and then actually allow this to run with our automated strategy in real time. And to avoid curve fitting, you've also got with NinjaTrader these walk forward optimizations, which are very popular and for good reason, as they help fight against curve fitting and increase the odds that the settings are going to be good going into the future.
A couple of notes from my end. If you're interested in SuperTrend Bulls Eye, the indicator which Nicola has used to build his automated strategy around, the first one that you have seen, you can check it out at our online store at tradingindicators.com/SuperTrend Bulls Eye. And if you are interested in 1, 2, 3 strike, which was the base for our second strategy, also this one is available, of course, on our online store at this link here. And Homer will put these links into the chat. And both tools, both indicators, they come with a 7-day money back guarantee, no questions asked. Okay, guys, so let's move on to the second topic at hand. We are going to put our Powerbundle 360 indicators to action. And Rainer will take over now, and he will use these indicators to continue creating his swing trading portfolio. So Rainer, are you there?
So hello, fellow traders. We're having some really interesting times in the market. And currently, there are no positions. And why didn't I take any positions? Well, the market is still very unpredictable. I will show you something there. We had some really important announcement. We had the employment numbers and a FOMC announcement for the interest rates. And these times during these announcements are always can cause big swings in the market. And I still had two assets on the watch list, and I will tell you why I did not take them. So what I want to show you, and don't want to switch back and forth so often, but I want to show you one thing that's quite important. This is the VIX. The VIX is the so-called fear factor, and that is actually the reason I did not take any trade. When you look at this one here, I put a dashed red line in here, and this is the 20 line. And if the VIX is above 20, it's considered high fear. If the VIX is below 20, it's a pretty normal situation in the market. We are doing long positions in our portfolio, so we're not playing here any kind of swings and big fears for downturns. We're doing long, so we must be very careful when we're above this red line with our positions, because very simple. Let me switch to the SPX and show you this one here. Here, I showed this last time to you where we had all the resistance and the support, but today I want to show you something very different. Just have a look at the size of these candles. Look at this long red candle and look at all these big candles. This is huge. Now let me go back a little bit. For example, last July or June, look at these candles. See how small they are compared to these candles. That means here the market is a pretty stable market, going up, going a little bit down, but there's not major swings. We had a few things where there were longer candles, but the market is a pretty stable here, and the VIX was below 20. Here the candles are huge, and it's very dangerous. This is a huge swing, several hundred points in the Dow, 80, 100 points in the S&P, which is can create some big problems in the market. So that is the reason I was very careful not to take any trades. And I tell you one thing, not to trade is a decision as well, and sometimes it's a very good decision. Okay, we talked about the hold it. I wanted to go one back here. So we had a calculator. You know the calculator, please use it. You can find it in the Excel sheet. Here's the calculator. And I also added another tab, which is called websites. This is where you can go and check out when is a holiday, when there's no trading, when is there any kind of economic news for, and I will add more of those important things. This looks like that. Let me show you this one here. I copied those in here. So what you have is the economic calendar. You can check the country you want, and then it shows you if the day there will be the stock market open or not. And you can go for the economic calendar, and it will show you who has some very interesting news and what news are coming up. And the stars tell you the importance, if it has a lot of impact. For example, German manufacturing always has a huge impact because Germany is the motor of the industrial machinery in Europe. And if they have a hiccup, the market is having a hiccup. So these are just for you. Besides, I will continue to do this. Feel free to download it and look at it. Okay, now let's go on. The next question I received was, okay, how do you use the indicators? And it's very simple. I made a little checklist here for you to do this. First of all, there was a question, which indicator is better? Tell you the truth, the bundle is the bundle for a reason, because they work perfectly together. So what I always look for, if there is a divergence cloud, because this gives me the secure feeling we are in a directional trend, which is really good. We're doing directional trades here, so we need to have a direction. And then I check if there's a 1, 2, 3 strike signal or a volatility crush signal. On the higher time frames, you probably only get the 1, 2, 3 strikes. If you go on the smaller time frames, you also will find more volatility crusher signals. If you have them combined, you have a very, very strong signal. Then you look for the potential break or support resistance zones. This is very important because that's always the case, that a stock moves up to a resistance zone, bounces a couple times towards it, and then breaks through, and the same thing on the way down. So if you see them, be careful. If you see the indicator showing you something and you're just below a resistance zone, just wait a day or two and see if it breaks through. If it closes above, jump in. Okay, let me go to the next one here. And then people ask me, what are all your settings on the chart? I don't have that many settings, and I will go through them in a second because I'm going to show you a couple of charts here how I do this. But I have a MACD setting there, and very simple reason. What I do is two things with a MACD. I compare the histograms, and it's always important to compare the current histogram with the previous histogram. Is it getting smaller, or is it getting larger? You always compare the entire histogram with the previous one to have a clear understanding. Is the momentum getting stronger or smaller? I also check the fast line and the slow line. Are we crossing the slow line, or are we going below the slow line? And the next part I do with the MACD is the divergence. I will show you that one in a couple seconds when we go through some slides. If you're in doubt because some things do not look right, move on. Do not take a chance. There's always another trade waiting. Just move on. There's plenty of stocks and plenty of options. And another thing, I have a question. Well, but you use all the other things, so I don't need this indicator. No, you got to distinguish between two things. You have to qualify the potential trade. Make sure that everything, the environment is in a proper order. The indicator then will give you and provide you with the highest probability entry. This is what it's for. The indicator is not because it's a situational indicator that shows you the situation at this current moment. The indicator does not really know what's going to happen tomorrow. So you really have to make sure that whatever you do fits in the environment. The indicator will definitely help you here to find the right moment to do this. Okay? So now let me go to some charts and go back here, because last time I told you that I was looking at COP. So let me go in COP and let me turn on the volatility crusher, the divergence, and the 1, 2, 3 strikes. I always use them together. Very simple. If I see a green cloud and then I see a 1, 2, 3 strikes in there, I'm happy. This is a very good sign. Okay, I have him here. Last week we were here and I was saying, we need to wait what happens next. And let me tell you why I did not take it. First of all, because of the news. Because I told you the news are very important. The stocks react quite a bit on it. And the second thing is, I did not see this back part here. And I was seeing that the histogram were getting smaller. Take the high here and take the high here. This was the next one here. And we didn't have that yet. So you see the top's getting smaller, which means the momentum is getting less. Price stayed the same, or when you go here, price was even from here going up. And that's what you call a divergence. That means the momentum does not support the price action. This might not be the best example, but that was one reason I was very, very careful and did not go there and did not do it. We had a signal here. I liked that a lot. I expected to get another signal here. Same thing here again. We had a decreasing momentum. When I looked at this green and I looked at this red, I saw, oh gosh, the momentum negative momentum is getting bigger and bigger compared to the positive momentum. So I got to be careful. And you see, it also turned down. We don't know yet what's going to happen, but I was like not really ready to do it Here, once again, you could go now and say, well, we see where that goes. Is it straight? Is it that way? We don't know. So if I don't know, I don't take it. I move on. This is not one I want to use. What I have on the list now to look for this coming week is Halliburton. This one I like, even though we had a divergence here as well. I put it already in there. But I also see that we do have some strong signals, and I'm waiting for a signal to show up. Hopefully there will be a signal, then I feel a lot better, because I see now here's a small green, bigger green, and because it didn't go into the red, we call this an inflection. An inflection is actually a pretty strong sign, which means that can be a very strong bullish sign that this moves further up. When we break through, I'll definitely go in. And there's not another thing that you really can use in order to decide whether you want to go into a trade or not. If you use Trading View, there are quite a few things that do not cost any penny. You can use them, like the MACD, that you can use, that's free. And I also used here what they call the yearly percentage return. For me, this is quite interesting, because what I see here in a very, very condensed way is how did the company perform? And because we do have long trades, I want to have a company that shows me some positive revenue and some really increased revenue, because that's when others invest into this company, and that's a good sign. So last year was good. This year is actually pretty good. This was during the pandemic, so I don't really mind. But it's really increasing. So I expect a lot of companies jumping in here and taking trades. That's a good sign for me, which means if the momentum goes up, we're breaking the high, this is a very, very hot candidate to use, okay? That's a free indicator. Just download it and you can use it. It's very simple. And then the other one I'm still looking at is Oxy. Here I was also saying I'm not sure if I'm going to use it, and you see here I put the divergence in here. The momentum was getting smaller and weaker, so I did not trust really what's going on. It showed a difference. It pushed through, came back, and is pushing through. I did not get any signals. I didn't get a 1, 2, 3 strike. I got now a divergence cloud, which is good too. So I really like that. And for me, this is now the 1 hour. You can always toggle between the 1 hour and the daily. So that's good, helps you to find a better entry. But this one is for me a pretty good sign. So that means if we go higher here, I definitely go in.
Yes, thank you so much, Rainer. Great presentation, great review of the markets. Okay, so this leaves me to remind you of next week's Trading Tech Talk on June 2nd, of course, Thursday at 6 p.m. And our spotlight presentation will be on the brand new Gersh-Trend Pro indicator. Many of you already know Gersh-Trend, the basic Gersh-Trend indicator, and we will release a brand new version of Gersh-Trend called Gersh-Trend Pro. And indeed, we do have a special guest speaker next week, which is Martin Gersh himself. And he will be introducing this new generation of the Gersh trend indicator. And of course, in the next Trading Tech Talk, we will also have Rainer once again, who will be putting our Powerbundle 360 indicators to good use to continue building his swing trading portfolio. Finally, a quick reminder, if you're interested in the SuperTrend Bulls Eye indicator or the 1, 2, 3 strike indicator, both have been used today by Nicola to build automated strategies using the NinjaTrader strategy builder. So if you're interested, they are both available on our online store. The links are displayed here, and I will also put them into the comment section. If you're interested, check them out. They come with a 7-day money-back guarantee, no question asked. All right, guys, this wraps up this session. I hope you enjoyed it, and I see you all next week on Thursday at 6 p.m. when we will cover the Gersh Trend Pro indicator. Goodbye.